know whether it is only me, even other members, their internet is bad, but my side, the internet is very bad. So let's look at corporate governance. At least some 5 marks, 5 to 10 marks always come from this part, corporate governance. And when it comes corporate governance, by definition, it is the way companies are directed and controlled. Now, the importance of corporate governance is to ensure that all stakeholders are considered. The interest of all stakeholders is considered. Or the owners have a say in the management of their business. That's the importance in corporate governance. So we have got various principles which are followed in corporate governance. The aim of this principle is to ensure that the organization is well managed or the company is well managed. So we can say that corporate governance, it is the way companies are directed and controlled. We can use like 30 minutes to finish this. The way the companies are directed and controlled. That's what we call a corporate governance. So what are the principles of corporate governance? Principles of corporate governance. Principle number 1 is integrity. That is being honest. Being honest. That's the first principle in corporate governance. Principle number 2, we have fairness. Fairness. That is being fair to all stakeholders. Being fair to all stakeholders. Then we have a principle of accountability. Being accountable to the organization resources. Then you have responsibility. To be held responsible for what he does. To be held responsible for the decision undertaken. That is a simple summary I'm making on this one. There are others, around 7 or 8 principles within the corporate governance. So this is not so much important as far as this part is concerned. Another part maybe that is a bit important is what's called the agency. Agency relationship. Agency relationship. Now, the agency relationship arises because shareholders cannot manage the business themselves. So they appoint directors, and then the directors also appoint managers. So there is always an agency relationship between the shareholders and directors, the directors and the managers. So we can say that the agency relationship arises because the shareholders cannot manage the business themselves. Thus, they appoint managers, so directors, and the directors also appoint the managers. Therefore, there is an agency relationship between the shareholders and the directors, where the directors are the agents and the shareholders are the principal. That is the first level of agency relationship. And we are saying that this agency relationship arises because the shareholders cannot manage the business themselves. So they appoint directors. So the directors are supposed to work in the interest of the shareholders. So in this relationship, the directors are going to be the agents, and then the shareholders are the principal. But as we have said, directors also appoints the managers to help them in the management of the business. Therefore, in this case, the directors are the principal, and the managers are the agents. So, as we are saying, this is the first level of the agency relationship. You have the owners and the directors. The owners appoint the directors to work or to run the business on their behalf. So you will have the owner as the principal and the directors as the agent. Now the directors also appoint the management. The management are supposed to help the directors in running the day-to-day operation of the business. So in this case, management will be the agents and the directors are going to be the principal in this case. So that is the agency. We shall look at other agency relationship that exist between different stakeholders. So another thing we can talk about here is the agency problem. So an agency problem arises in many cases if there is a conflict of interest. The agent is not performing his or her duty as expected by the principal, or the agent is pursuing his or her own interest. So in that case, an agency problem will arise between the principal and the agent. So an agency problem arises when the agent fails to perform his duty as an agent, or if there is a conflict of interest. So, in many cases, an agency problem arises if the agent fails to perform his duty as an agent, or if the agent is pursuing his or her own interest instead of the interest of the principal. Because as an agent, you are supposed to put the interest of the principal first before your own interest. So if the reverse is true, in that case, an agency problem is going to arise. So an agency, it becomes like a mistrust. People start not to trust each other. In that case, a problem has arisen, which is the agency problems. So what are the costs of agency problem? Costs of agency problem. So if an agency problem arises, it comes with certain costs. It's going to come with certain costs. So some of the costs of an agency problem, we have the monitoring costs. So the principal will incur extra cost. The principal will incur extra cost to monitor the activities of the agent. So that is a monitoring cost. The principal is incurring an extra cost in order to monitor what the agent is doing. Then cost number 2 is legal costs. Legal costs. So in this case, the principal and the agent may go to the court. The principal and the agent may go to the court. That is going to be another, if things becomes bad, you may find that the principal has taken the agent to the court, or the agent can even take the principal to the court, maybe for failure to fulfill their obligations. There is accounting costs, where you want, this can also be in monitoring. There are financial costs, where you need to pay. Financial costs, reputation costs, These are costs that arises due to the agency problem. And which need to be solved in that case. So another is how do we solve the agency problem? Solving the agency problem. How do we solve the agency problem? One of the solution to the agency problem is what we call a goal congruence. Goal congruence means that all different departments have the same objective, ensuring that everyone is focusing to achieve organizational objectives rather than their own interest. Every department aiming at achieving the organization goals and objectives. That is to ensure that every organization, every department, you have the same focus. That is to achieve the organization goals or to achieve the organization objectives. Another one is the bonus payments. This one is good but not so good. Cash bonuses or what we call profit related bonuses. Profit related bonuses. So you give a target of the profit. If the employee or if they achieve those targets, if they achieve the target, then they are given a profit bonus. That is also one way to solve an agency problem. Another one is the share-based plans. Share option plan. Share option plan. Share option plan, that is about giving shares to the management or giving shares to the key employees within the organization as one way to solve the agency problem. So these are some of the solutions that can be employed when you are solving an agency problem. You can use the goal congruence, profit-related bonuses, or you can have share option plan, where employees or management are given option to buy shares. So that is another thing we can talk about briefly. These are stakeholders. I don't think we can talk much of this, but I can just talk briefly. Stakeholders, a stakeholder is what called a stakeholder is anyone who is affected or who can affect the company's activities. Anyone who can affect or can be affected by the company's activities, we call him or her a stakeholder. So we have got mainly three groups of stakeholders. We have the internal stakeholders, where we have the employees. I think I just even mentioned employees and the managers. These are internal stakeholders. We also have what called the connected stakeholders. This is number one, internal. Number two, we have what called connected stakeholders. These we have the customers, the suppliers, investors, banks, etc. These we call them connected stakeholders. Now, another one we have what we call the external stakeholders. External stakeholders. Under here you have the government, you have the community, maybe the donors. Donors can be connected as stakeholders. So these are stakeholders. So what is important here? Because we said a stakeholder is anyone who can affect or can be affected by the company's activities. So you need to know how employees can affect or how can they be affected by the company's activities. How can managers affect or be affected by the company's activities? That's the important thing to know. Then what is the relationship between these different stakeholders? What's the relation between either the directors and employees? What's the relation between directors and customers, managers and customers? Because there is that relationship that bounds them. And that's going to be like an agency relationship still that between you need to look at these stakeholders. But when you are discussing this, look at how the company can affect the activities of these stakeholders and how all the stakeholders can affect the activities of the company. Then from that, you can be able to discuss. Because if you look at the company and the company and the customers, what do the company expect from the customers and what the customer expect from the company? Company and the suppliers. What do the company expect from the suppliers and what the supplier expect from the company? That's how you can be able to argue this important part. So another thing that you can talk about here is the best practice. This is which is very much examined, best practice of corporate governance. Best practice of corporate governance. how should a company be governed? How would you know that the governance structure is weak or the governance structure is strong? So by looking at the practice, then you can be able to identify whether the governance is weak or the governance is strong. Number one, the first is to look at the composition of the board members. Who forms, what is the makeup of the board members? A good governance structure, the board member should be comprised of both the non-executive and the executive directors. So a good governance structure, the board should comprise of both the executive and the non-executive for the board to be okay. When you say the board is strong, it should have both executive and the non-executive board members. So if you find that the board members, they are not non-executive, then it indicates that the board is weak. It indicates a weakness in the board structure. Then if you look at number 2, look at the board size. The law says that the board members should be large, the size of the board should be large enough, but does not provide the limit, but should be large enough. The size of the board should be large enough, and at least a third should be non-executive. At least a third of the board members should be non-executive directors. That is also a condition in the board. Then another thing that we should look at if you're analyzing the board, look at the independence of the board. Independence of the board members. So the board members should be independent. Should be independent. The board members should be independent when they are making their decision. So look at whether the board members are independent or they are not independent. That is going to help you to evaluate whether the governance is strong or the governance is not strong. Another thing we can talk about here is separation of roles. Separation of role of CEO and chair board. A good governance, the role of the CEO and the role of chairman board should be separated. The role of the CEO and the roles of chairman or chairperson, board of directors should be separated. In a good governance, the roles of the chairman and the roles of the directors, CEO, should be separate. There should be a distinction between these two offices. So if you find that there is no distinction between the office of the CEO and the office of the chair, then there is a problem in corporate governance. Another thing which you need to analyze when you are looking at the best practice, the balance of skills. Balance of skills and knowledge. Of the board members. So the board member should have a variety. The board should have a variety of skills, and the members should be experienced. Members should be experienced. The board member should have a variety of skills, and the members of the board should have enough experience to be able to lead the organization. So if the board members are not skilled, then that indicates a weakness in the corporate governance. Then last but not the least, look at existence of board committee. Existence of board committees and the past people who lead the committees. Look at the existence of the body committee and the members who lead those body committee. We have got some body committees that must appear in the organization, like the audit committee, remuneration committee, appointment committee. Those body committee which must be there. Check if those committees are there. And who heads those committees. An audit committee should be headed by a non-executive director. If it's an audit committee, it should be headed by a non-executive director. So you need to analyze these issues and others, and then from here you can be able to evaluate whether the board is strong or the board is weak. So the way this question is asked, you are given the board members and the details of the board. Then from that details, you can be able to evaluate the board, whether it is strong or not strong. And then identify the weakness and the strength of that body based on the best practice. How should the board be in that case? I think that is what I can talk about. So the last part I can talk about in this area or in this part is corporate social responsibility. What we abbreviate as CSR. Corporate social responsibility. So the corporate social responsibility, it just defines the responsibility of the company to the different stakeholders. What is the responsibility of company to the different stakeholders? So this defines the responsibility of the company to the different stakeholders. So there are 4 levels of CSR. When it comes to CSR, there are 4 important levels. So we have the first one is what we call the economic responsibility. Economic responsibility. So the economic responsibility of the business is to provide the return to the owner. That's the economic responsibility. So here, the economic responsibility of the business is to provide a return to the owners, because owners start their business or start businesses to be able to get a return. So any business, its first responsibility is the economic responsibility, and that is to provide a return to the owners. That's what the owner expects from the business. We are requesting the answers for the mock. I've not yet looked at answered it. We are just going to answer it together in a revision. But I've not yet done it. But in revision we are going to do it. So 2, we have the legal responsibilities. Legal responsibility. So the legal responsibility, that is complying or abiding to the laws that governs the country. As a company or as an organization, it has to be a good citizen. Good citizen, that is abiding to the law, abiding to the laws of the country. That is the simple way I can explain it. So you must know what are the relevant laws and how can the business be a good citizen or a company be a good citizen. Then you have what called the ethical responsibility. Ethical responsibility. Ethical responsibility, that is abiding to the ethical values. Abiding to the ethical values of the community. Knowing, I think, the chirazira of that given community and knowing those ethical issues. That is also very important in corporate responsibilities. Then the last one, the last level is what called philanthropic. Philanthropic responsibility. The philanthropic responsibility, it is about giving back to the community. It is about giving back to the community. That is helping the community. So that is the 4 levels of a corporate social responsibility. Economic, providing a return. Legal, knowing the rules and the regulation that govern the country. Ethical, knowing the ethical values of that community where the company is operating. A philanthropic, that is about giving back to the community, helping the community. So what is the importance of corporate responsibility? Why is it important? Importance of corporate social responsibility. Why is corporate social responsibility important? Number one, it creates a corporate image, a good image, a good corporate image within the community. It creates a good corporate image within the community. So if the company is giving back, is helping, that is, it's abiding with the laws, in that case, it's going to create a good image of that particular company. Number two, attracting potential customers. Attracting potential customers. If the company is giving back, is helping, then it's going to attract a potential customers. Also attracting potential employees, because the community attracting the potential potential employees, and investors, because the community is full of very many people. So these are some of the the benefits why the company should continue practicing a CSR. So, dear members, I think I've been brief on this part of corporate governance, but I've summarized most of the key areas within this part. I can't say, I think I've summarized like 85%. I've summarized like 85% of this part of corporate governance. My plan was to finish the theoretical part. So I don't know if we can get a small rest of 20 minutes, and then we are supposed to continue with the last part of our discussion today, which is corporate failure. Are you there, members, or you have already left? You are not yet depreciated. Okay. Yeah, let's finish this because there is no time. No time. Let's have a minute, 20 minutes break. Let's rest for 20 minutes, and then when you come back, we can continue. What has happened? Can we continue or we have some minutes break? What do you say? We continue or we get some minutes break? I'm asking, please reply. Let's get at least 5 minutes. 5 minutes break. And then we move on. 5 minutes only. But now the internet is stable. So let's see, move on and now look at corporate failure and the restructuring. Now, corporate failure, that's when a business is facing some challenges, most especially is facing a financial distress. That is what we call a corporate failure. So, when you say corporate failure, it is when the business is failing to operate continue to operate due to some factors such as a financial distress. So in a corporate failure, the business is failing to continue operating as a going concern. And in most cases, this corporate failure, either the business is in a financial distress or the business is engaged in some activities that are not allowed, then it can lead to corporate failure. What are the causes of corporate failure? Can you mention some few of them here and others? Causes of corporate failure. Number one is insufficient management of resources. Insufficient management of resources. If the business does not manage its physical resources well, that can lead to corporate failure. If you don't manage your resources well, then that can lead to corporate failure. You are producing under capacity, the assets are not well maintained. In that case, it can lead to corporate failure. Another reason, another causes is insufficient financial management. Insufficient financial management, where the business, you are not having good people with good skills to manage your finances. You don't have strategy to control costs. You don't make good analysis of your investment. You fail to get money to invest. That can also lead corporate failure. Another we can talk about here is continue to operate in loss. Continuing to operate in losses. If the business continue to operate in losses, that can also lead to a corporate failure, because the more you make losses, the more you are eroding the capital, and therefore that can be a cause to corporate failure. Another one we can talk about is insufficient human resource skills. Insufficient human resource skills. You don't have good people with good skills. That can also an indicator of or it can be a cause to a corporate failure. Failure to do market research. Failure to do a market research. If the business does not do a market research, you don't know where your customer, you don't know where the products are purchased, that one can also lead to a corporate failure. So these are some, I'm not saying these are the only causes, but these are some of the causes that can lead, or some of the factors which can lead to a corporate failure. How can you know that the business is failing? What are the symptoms? Symptoms. Symptoms of corporate failure. How can you know that this business is really failing? Number one, failure to control cost. If the business is failing to control costs, that is an indicator that this business is likely to fail. Failure to pay taxes. Failure to pay taxes and other expenses. You are supposed to pay your taxes, but you don't have the money to pay the taxes. That is also an indicator that the business is failing. Another one, failure to focus on a particular market. Failure to focus on a particular market. If the business cannot focus on a particular market, that is also an indicator. You go there, you go there, you go there, you are not focused. In that case, it's an indicator that the business is likely to fail. And other indicators that you can check in our notes. So how do we predicting the corporate failure? How can we predict that the business is likely to fail? how can we predict that the business is likely to fail? So when we are predicting, we have got two models that we use to predict a corporate failure. So we have the quantitative model by Altman, and we have the qualitative model by Guthrie. So there are two models which we use when we are predicting a corporate failure. There are two models used when predicting a corporate failure. There are two models we use to predict a corporate failure. We have the quantitative model by Altman, financial management, that's managing the financial resources, investment, how you make a decision to finance, the working capital management, that is the financial management. We have the number one, the quantitative model. Model by Altman. And the number two, we have the qualitative model. It's the Guen, I don't even, the qualitative model. These are the two models that we can use when we want to predict whether the business is failing or is not failing. So let's look at the Altman Z score. The Altman Z score, which is our quantitative model. Now, the Altman Z score uses items in the financial statements to predict a corporate failure. So you are going to use the items in the financial statements in order to find out if the business is likely to fail or not. So we can say that this uses items in the statement of financial position. So in the financial statements to predict a corporate failure. It uses the items in the statement of financial position to predict whether the business is going to fail or not. Now, the Z score, which is called as Z, is equal to 1.2 x1 plus 1.4 x2 plus 3.3 x3 plus 0.6 x4 plus 1 x5, where x1 are components within the financial, where x1 to X5 are items from the financial statements. And the X1 is equal to working capital over total assets. X2 is equal to retained earnings over total X3 is equal to earning before interest and tax over total assets. X4 is equal to market value of equity over the book value of liabilities. And X5 is equal to total sales over total assets. So that is how you are going to predict the business failure as per the Altman Z score. So what you only need to do here is to compute these ratios. And then if the Z score is below 1.8, if the Z score is below 1.8, then the business is threatened with a corporate failure. If you analyze and you find that the Z score is below 1.8, then it means that that business is threatened with a corporate failure. So you can look at maybe a simple example here. If our maybe total assets maybe 100 million, working capital, let's say we have this business, working capital maybe 40 million. You have our retained earnings, you have EBIT 15, you have your sales 60. Let's say that we have equity 50, we have liabilities 100. Sorry. Assets assess whether this business is threatened with corporate failure. Assess whether this business is threatened with a corporate failure. Assess whether the business is threatened with a corporate failure. So what we do here is because we know our variables. So I need x1, x2, x3, x4, and x5. The constant here is 1.2, 1.4, 0.6. So this is 3.3, 0.6, and this one is 1. So x1, we said by here, it is working capital divided by total asset. So I will get my working capital, I divide by total asset. Then x2, we said retained earnings divided by total asset. So my retained earnings is this, divided by the total asset. Then x3, it is earning before interest and tax divided by the total asset. So my earning before interest and tax is 15 divided by the total asset. Then x4 is market value of equity divided by total book value of liability. So I will have my equity divided by the liabilities. Then x5 is sales divided by the total assets. So here I can multiply now. I get this times this. So if I add here, I get 2.02. So it is above 1.8. So it means in this case, the business is not threatened with a corporate failure. This is my Z score. So there is no corporate failure since the Z score is above 1.8. So since the Z score is above 1.8, no corporate failure. I don't know if you have a question on this. Then another model is what we call the qualitative model. Qualitative model. So this model uses or analyzes the management weakness and the accounting weakness to assess the corporate failure. So this analyzes the management weaknesses and the accounting weakness in assessing the corporate failure. So in a qualitative model, what you look at are the weaknesses in management and the weaknesses in accounting. Each factor is ranked. So if the total rank is above 10, then it indicates a problem. Each factor or each weakness is going to be ranked from 0 to 8, depending on how the factor is practiced. So if you look at the management weakness or some of the management weaknesses, because we said the model analyzes the weaknesses in the management and the weaknesses in accounting to assess a corporate failure. So the management weaknesses, we have autocratic or autocratic CEO. If the CEO is autocratic or is bureaucratic, something who does not hear advice, in that case, it can indicate a problem in the management. Failure to separate roles, failure to separate roles of CEO and the chair, as we discussed there. If the roles of the chairman and the roles of the CEO are not separated, it also indicates a weakness in the management. Then we have existence of committees. That is, if there are no existence of committees, that is a weakness. Look at the balance of skills. Balance of skills. If you have a board which is not well experienced, then that is also a weakness. So you look at these factors and others, and then you can rank. Each point is ranked, and then you add the total. The total should be giving 45. And if you look at the accounting weaknesses, failure to control cost. If the business does not control costs, then that can be a weakness. Failure to prepare a budget. That is also a weakness. So you are going to analyze these factors and others, and then from there you can conclude whether there is a weakness or there is no weakness. I don't know if you have a question on this part. I think we are remaining with one part, which is corporate restructuring, and then we summarize, we finish this part. Of course, I'm making some summary. Other details, I think you have them in the notes. But once you have got something, then you can be able to know where to find it in the notes. I'm not saying that I'm giving every point here. I'm just making some summary which can guide you as you are reading the notes. So another thing that we're going to talk about is, of course, you have the solution to corporate failure. like restructuring, selling the assets, participation of the board. Maybe I can try to also few of these one. Solution to corporate failure. What can we do if we see that the business is really failing? You have predicted and you have found that the business is really failing. One way is to do a corporate restructuring, which we are going to discuss in our next part. Corporate restructuring, changing some business activities. You can look at sale of some redundant assets, sale of redundant you can sell some of the assets which are not performing well or which are not being used by the business. You can decide to sell some of those assets if you find that the business is really failing. You want to avoid a business failure. Number three, it may require active participation of the board. Active participation of the board, ensuring the board participate actively in the management of the business. So, and the others, this is so these are some of the factors that can help when you are to solve the problem of corporate failure. But we also have others which you can find in our notes. So the last part in our discussion today is corporate restructuring. Corporate restructuring or reconstruction. Corporate restructuring or corporate reconstruction. So this is the last part we are going to talk about today. I know it has been a very longer discussion, but it was important because we don't have time to do that. So we have a corporate restructuring or corporate reconstruction. Now, when we say corporate restructuring, these are ways to avoid changing business activities in order to avoid a corporate failure. That's what we call a corporate restructuring. It's about changing the business activities or the firm's activities in order to avoid a corporate failure. So we can say that this involves changing the firm's activities in order to avoid a corporate. It involves changing the activities of the firm in order to avoid a corporate failure. So what are the schemes in corporate restructuring? How can we do that? Schemes in corporate restructuring. Or reconstruction. Schemes in corporate restructuring or schemes in what we call the corporate reconstruction. Now, the first scheme is what we call business reorganization. Business reorganization. Business reorganization, it is about changing the organization functions in order to reduce the costs. That is the business reorganization. So it is about redesigning the organization functions in order to reduce cost and avoid corporate failure. So you redesign the activities from all the business functions. You can redesign the business activities, the business functions, but the aim here is to reduce cost such that you can avoid a corporate failure. For example, you can change the organizational structure. Here, some of the key, you can change the organizational structure, remove some functions within the organization structure by removing some functions, what we call flattening. You can try to flatten your organization structure by removing some of the functions that may not be very relevant. You can redesign the operation activities. Redesign the operating activities. You can change the operating activities of the business. So these are some of the key functions as far as business reorganization is concerned. The next one is what we call portfolio restructuring. Portfolio restructuring. When it comes to portfolio restructuring, it is about changing the asset mix of the organization. It is about changing the asset mix of the organization. That is the portfolio restructuring. You change the asset mix of that particular organization. The key strategy here that can be used, we have what we call a divestment. Divestment, that is about selling some of the assets or part of the business that are not performing well. That's what we call a divestment. This involves selling some assets or part of the business activities that are not performing. You can decide to sell some parts of the business activity or some assets which you think that they are not performing. That is what we call a divestment. Then we have the merger. The merger, that is splitting the company that was previously splitting the company that were previously merged. You may find that you had companies and those companies were merged. Then you split them into two or into more companies. That's what we call a demerger. So it is splitting the companies that were previously merged. What is it? Why is it important? Because you may find that it is becoming very hard to manage the company. It requires a lot of resources, it requires a lot of skills, and the organization does not have those skills. What you do is to split the company in a way that it can be well managed. That is a demerger. Then another one is what we call a liquidation. You can decide to liquidate if things becomes bad. Liquidation, that is ending the business activities. Ending the business activities. That is what we call a liquidation. You decide to terminate the business activities. And then there is what we call a management buyout and a management buy-in. MBO or MBI. Management buyouts and management buy-in. Management buy out and buy-in. In the management buyout or management buy-in, you sell a part or the entire business to the management, to the existing management of the business. So under here, part or the entire business is sold to the management. That is what we call a management buyout or a management buy-in. You can look at the advantage and the disadvantage of this. Then with what we call a sell-off. A sell-off, that is selling off the business. There is what we call a spin-off. A spin-off. Spin-off, that is you are changing the company into a different company. The same company, but you change it to a different, but it still remain with the same shareholders. That is what we call a spin-off. Then you can what we call a carve-out. There's carve out. So carve out is like a spin-off, but in this case, the company is sold to another company. So these are different different strategies under portfolio restructuring. The last one is a financial restructuring. That's number 3. Financial restructuring. Financial structuring, it's about changing the capital structure of the business. It is about changing the capital structure of the business. That is what we call the financial restructuring. You are changing the capital structure. The first we can talk about here, the strategy that I used here in the financial restructuring, one is what we call leveraged recapitalization. Leveraged recapitalization. Leveraged recapitalization, it is about substituting equity or changing equity or replacing equity with debt. It is about replacing equity with debt. The importance here is to avoid what we call a hostile takeover, with the aim to avoid a hostile takeover. You are making the business unattractive to take over. Nobody is going to like the business because the business is highly leveraged. That is what we call a leveraged recapitalization. Then number 2 is what we call debt to equity swap. That is B, debt to equity swap. Debt to equity swap. So debt to equity swap, you replace debt with equity. It can also be equity to debt swap, where you're going to replace debt with equity, which is almost similar to the other leveraged recapitalization. So in this case, a debt is replaced by equity. So in that case, you want to avoid the finance cost. In order to avoid the finance cost. So that in that case, you're going to go to a debt to equity swap. Another strategy under here is the dividend policy. The dividend policy. So the business can change. That is changing the business policy. If you are giving a dividend, you can decide not to give a dividend, or you can go to a residual policy. So the aim here is to ensure that you don't run out of cash flows. So you change your dividend, you change the dividend policy of the organization. Then the last one, but not the least, is what we call leveraged buyout. Leveraged buyout. Leveraged buyout, it is about selling the business, but the purchase is financed by a debt. That's what's called a leveraged buyout. Selling the business to private investors, but the purchase consideration is financed by a debt. You sell a business to the private investors or private, but they issue a debt as a purchase consideration. So these are the methods that can be used in corporate restructuring. You can have a, so what you need to look at here, look at the question and find out which restructuring that needs to be conducted in that particular business. If there is a problem in the debt, in the gearing, in what, then in that case you need a corporate restructuring. If you have some assets that are redundant, what, then in that case, or the business has become too big, it's no longer be able to manage, in that case you need a portfolio restructuring. Or there is a problem in the organizational structure, then in that case you need a business reorganization. So what you need to be very careful is when you are reading the question, try to identify the challenge that the business is facing. Is it in the assets? Is it in the organizational activities? Is it in financing? Then you can advise the strategy that the business can use. I don't know if you have a question. I know it has been a marathon today with the poor internet, but I think we have done something which we were really lagging behind. So we have covered these 4 parts. Spin-off. When you say spin-off, the company, you just change the names, but the company continue to be owned by the same owners, but you change its name. That is a spin-off. Sell-off, you are selling the business activities. So sell-off is like a divestment. So I don't need another question you have before we close our discussion today. It has been a very long discussion, but it was worth it. It was really worth this discussion. We have covered a lot of things, but the number was very small. I don't know the problem, but the good thing is that we have covered this. We have recorded. Those who have not managed to attend, they can probably follow the Excel sheet and the audio. So now we are remaining with 1 part or 2 parts, which I think we shall finish. It means, how did you miss it? So I think we can stop here today, and then we can meet when we get another time. We shall communicate how to meet again. So thank you very much for today. Let's meet again in next time. Have a good night. Tomorrow I will communicate. It's going to depend. Then I will communicate the way forward tomorrow.